Hello and welcome to the Onside Kick. Ricky Widmer here along with Mark Weber.
How's it going?
And we're here to bring you the best insight in Chicago sports and then branch out into the national world. And if you're sitting there at home thinking, Ricky, there's one thing wrong. There is one voice missing in today's Onside Kick. Dave Oster is not here today.
He got fired. By fired, I mean he's got a cold.
He's got a cold. He came in, he was like, guys, you know what, I'm not feeling good. We were like, you know what? Take the night off. Me and Mark have the ship under control, and tonight we're going to be talking a lot of hockey, something that I know Dave himself has mentioned in previous podcasts. We don't talk a lot about, but the Hawks are big right now, moving on into the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Going to talk about their first round series, who they could play next, and branch out into some general Stanley Cup news. Then we're going to talk about the Nick Fairley and the Detroit Lions. Comes out, said that, you know what, the Lions are going to be Super Bowl in 2013. Me and Mark will give our opinions on how stupid that statement is. And then finally, we will recap Game 3 of the Bulls and the Heat and kind of talk NBA playoffs. But Mark, first, the Blackhawks shut out. And yes, I know that the Wild scored 1 point, but I'm calling it a shutout. 5-1 victory in Game 5 to win and move on.
And it was a great win. It was a dominant win. This is what we needed. We needed to come back and say, we are the best team in the NHL, and we don't care what you got to say about it. Hossa, the king of Chicago, led this team, and I'm just going to say that it's interesting that Toews and Kane, they're not putting up the numbers. You know, they're not scoring our goals right now. How scary is it for those next teams to think they just destroyed Minnesota and their two biggest guys aren't even doing it?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the stat sheets, the two highest point totals on our team are 6 each, and it's Patrick Sharp and Marian Hossa. And then it's like, is Patrick Kane doing anything? Yes, he is, but he's not scoring goals. He has 5 points, but all of them are assists. And you could say the same for Jonathan Toews. I mean, he's got only 2 points, but no goals. All of them are assists.
And that's something that you expect these guys to do. We're used to seeing Patrick Kane just go and drive them in, but he doesn't need to right now, I guess. I mean, everybody's got this hot hand right now, especially, you know, you see Hossa, and he's just dominating it every night.
See, and it's, I mean, the one thing that I've noticed from watching the Hawks in this series is, first off, and we're going to get to it in a little bit, you put a good goaltender, and I know we have given Corey Crawford all year about how, he shouldn't start in the Stanley Cup playoffs, put Emery in, he's the hot hand, but you put a good goalie behind this Blackhawks team, and then you have Siebes, Duncan Keith. I mean, Michael Handzus from the Sharks right before the trade deadline coming in being a quality second center. Then you've got the third line for the Hawks. The thing I was surprised about, Marcus Kruger getting his first playoff goal in Game 5. His 16 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs gets his first one in Game 16.
Which is awesome. It's a good way to get yourself started. Kind of get in because it's really kind of a selfless attitude on this team. It's just kind of whoever's there, go ahead, take the shot, get it in. Because you can see, even just looking at statistics here, the Blackhawks were just dominating on shots on goal. They were just well above the Wild in nearly every single game. And it's just kind of an attitude of, even our stars will get you the puck, even if you're, you know, on your second or third line, and just let you go. Go ahead and shoot it. Get it in there.
See, and the one thing right now, I'm kind of looking back at the stats. I'm kind of pulling out the time capsule because I'm looking back to the 2010 postseason, and that was the year that, obviously, all Chicago fans know, that was the year we won the Cup. And who were our first 2 point leaders? Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane. Then we had Sharp right behind him in third. Marian Hossa that year in the postseason in 22 games only had 15 points. So it seems like now a few years later, I mean, yes, Hossa's become even a bigger part of this team than he was in 2010, but it seems like with the captain and I'm just going to call him the assistant, Patrick Kane, because when you think the Hawks, you always think If you're thinking Toews, you're always thinking Toews, Kane. Those names are going to be linked for the eternity of hockey history.
Definitely. I like seeing what we're seeing right now. It reminds me of that 2010 team that we saw, because last year it was a good team, but it wasn't a great team. And now we're back to that great team that we had before, and you see it, and you just have those highlights in your head of when we were just dominating team after team and got into the Stanley Cup Finals, just to have that one moment where only one man on the ice knew that they won the Stanley Cup. And that was Patrick Kane.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm looking back at this series with Minnesota. It kind of, I'm glad we didn't win this in 4 games. I'm glad that it took us 5, because if you look at that game 3, the biggest thing the Wild said was, "Oh, we want to get the Hawks out of their comfort zone. We want to make things tough for the Hawks. We don't want to make it easy." And that's what they did in that 3-2 overtime loss. They made things hard for us. They made us feel uncomfortable. And they won the game. And then it seemed like after that, the Blackhawks said, "We will never let you make us feel uncomfortable again," as Corey Crawford gets his first shutout in Game 4 of the postseason, and then, boom, the 5-1 win to move on to the next round.
Yeah, it wasn't an extremely difficult series, and having it go to 5 games is better because we have less time to wait until our next matchup. But it was a good series to kind of, I don't want to call it a warm-up, but that's almost what it was. It was like you had to work at it, but you didn't have to work your hardest. We still got some stuff in the tanks. We're still ready to go for the next team.
See, I don't know. Part of me thinks, like, you say warm-up, and I kind of feel like part of me thinks it's kind of impossible to call a series against the Wild a warm-up just because of the huge moves that they made in the offseason, bringing in Zach Parise from the New Jersey Devils, who were in last year's Stanley Cup Finals. Then you bring in Ryan Suter, a big defenseman from the Nashville Predators. And it's just like you bring in these big names in a lockout year, you finish in the 8th seed, barely getting into the playoffs, and then you win 1 game against the Hawks, and then you're going home.
It's a tough one to do, especially in the lockout, because you have these guys that you paid for, and they don't have the time to gel together. And that's obviously in the beginning and the whole first half of this season. That's what the Blackhawks did. They gelled together. It worked, and that's why they were so far and beyond better than everybody else.
I want to look at Corey Crawford now, because in the postseason so far in the first round, of course there's going to be a series that go longer than the Hawks did in 5. Crawford he's tied for first in save percentage in the postseason with Craig Anderson of Ottawa, who the Ottawa Senators also won in 5 games over the Montreal Canadiens, a 95% save percentage. But Crawford also has the fewest goals against average at 1.32 in these playoffs. Mark, I know I said that Ray Emery should have been starting in these playoffs, but looking at these numbers, looking at this first series, I might have been wrong.
Yeah, it's tough to say right now because obviously this is all we have. This is the only option that we really had with Emery being hurt. But it looks genius. I mean, whether it would have went one way or another with him being healthy, who knows? But right now, everything is working perfectly. It's going really well. There was, obviously we had the one loss, overtime loss, which is unfortunate. But all these games have been good. I mean, you're letting up only 1 goal or getting the shutout. It's been good. He's been looking great.
And I mean, I'm looking right now at the goals against average leaders in the playoffs. And when you put Crawford's name with just the next 3 underneath, you've got Craig Anderson of Ottawa, who might not be a shutout goalie, but he's a well-known goalie in hockey. Jonathan Quick, who was the reason why the LA Kings won the Stanley Cup last year. And then right there, San Jose, Antoniemi, the guy who helped us win a cup back in 2010.
It's a familiar pattern of your goalies that are being the main reason in the playoffs that you go and you win that cup. And that's what we want to see. We want to have that goalie who can lock it down and say, don't worry, I'm doing my job. I'm going to get you there. Just score the goals. And that's exactly what the Blackhawks can do.
And Mark, I'm going to kind of throw a question your way because like I said, one of the things I know I did, I can't remember if you said it. Did you agree that Ray Emery should have been starting day one of the playoffs if he was healthy?
Yeah, if he was healthy, I wanted Emery in there.
So right now, Emery's still listed day to day. He didn't play Thursday due to a lower body injury. If he comes back healthy and Crawford slips up once in the next round, do you pull Crawford?
I think it depends on what you mean by slip up. By slip up, are we just talking like a normal loss?
A bad loss. Like
a bad
his
loss?
First really bad loss of the playoffs.
If you have a really bad loss, I think that is a tough one, but I kind of feel that you should put Emery in there to give him a break, and it can work on a couple of levels because you give him a break, you get somebody else in there who is just dying to get that spot. He wants to be in there because he wants to be the one leading us to the cup. But at the same time, then you have Crawford who's thinking, damn, I can't do that again. I can't mess up again. And because they've been battling all season, so he knows that he can't slip up. He can't have any of those chances. So I think you do put Emery in there.
See, I don't know. The one thing, I feel like if it's a bad game where it's like, let's say in the next round, no matter who we play, he gives up 3 goals early. And if Emery's available, go ahead and put him in. But I feel like since how Crawford played in round 1, Crawford shouldn't be missing a start. Because I feel like once you pull him from a start, that's going to start to get to his confidence level. And the biggest thing with Corey Crawford is his confidence level. If he's not feeling confident, the Hawks are in trouble.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. It really is, because you don't want to go against the hot hand. You also don't want to ruin a goalie's confidence, especially in the playoffs when every game really, really matters. But I don't know. It's tough when you have 2 high caliber goalies on your roster.
Are we really complaining about having 2 quality goaltenders? Are we really having this argument about 2 quality goaltenders?
Why do we have 2? I wish we only had 1. Why do we have to have so much talent? Let's trade it all away.
But could this just be seen as a huge positive that we're just kind of sitting here about?
Yeah, it's I don't know. You want to compare it to a first world problem or something like that?
That's what I'm thinking. Because right now with the Hawks, the little silver lining in this is we have 2 goaltenders that, I don't know about you, I feel confident in both of them to where if they needed to start any playoff game, I would feel confident having them in net behind our players.
Definitely. And I think everything is, even if our goalies do have a little bit of an off night, everything is set up so well that our team is going to score anyways. You know, we're going to score. We're going to pass around that puck and get it to the hot hand to where we can make up for it. So it's such a safe team. It's like a no-fail team right now.
And the next thing I want to talk about, still with the Blackhawks, is this was big news today around the entire sports world. Well, you could say Chicago sports world, is the finalists were announced for many of the awards that will be, I want to say their award ceremony is even after the playoffs. It's going to be awarded to each player. The Hart Memorial Trophy, which is the league's MVP. And the 3 finalists were the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby, the Capitals, Alex Ovechkin, and the Islanders, John Tavares. And if you've noticed on the 3 names that I listed, no Patrick Kane, no Jonathan Toews.
Yeah, you know Ovechkin and Crosby are going to be in there every year. They're going to be in the discussion every year. You know that for a fact. It's interesting that, Kane's not in there, Toews isn't in there. You're not even, I don't know, you can even make the case that Hossa could be in there. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's, everyone's kind of saying they're getting snubbed. I don't know if it's that it's such a good team to where maybe one player isn't that big of a deal. Like, you could take Patrick Kane out and the Blackhawks are still going to win games. You can take Toews out and we're still going to win games. So I don't know if that's the argument. It is interesting that they're not even in the final. They're not finalists. It's strange. It's strange, but I can kind of almost see some logic behind it.
See, I don't know. I mean, with Jonathan Toews, I feel like it's not really a snub. I feel like the only Hawk that got snubbed from this list, the finalists should be Ovechkin, Crosby, Kane. because you think about these. Ovechkin, 32 goals this year. He led the league in goals for the regular season. Fine. Just on that alone, boom, you're a finalist. You have Sidney Crosby, tied for third in points with Ovechkin with 56. Is he in the top 5 in scoring goals? No. But what he did for the Penguins, what he does for the Penguins every season, puts him in the conversation for the MVP. Patrick Kane, 5th overall, 55 points, 5th overall, 23 goals. How is he not in the MVP conversation? How is he not a finalist?
I don't know. It's just it's hard to argue against. I just think the only thing I can really think of is if somebody says the Blackhawks are such a good team that it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to be fine without him. That's the only argument I can really think that really works well. Or they just figure, Patrick Kane, don't give him another thing. I don't know if there's some kind of, they're jealous. Everybody's jealous of Chicago.
See, I don't know. I feel like, to me, like we were talking earlier in the season, how, Patrick Kane going on a tear for the Blackhawks when we were going on our huge streak. And I feel like Toews and especially Kane can use this and the entire Blackhawks team can gel and be like, you know what? We don't need the MVP because we've got the best team, Stanley Cup champions 2013.
It is strange that, we broke that record. The longest running point streak, such a dominant team. We're a favorite to go into the Stanley Cup, if not a favorite to win the Stanley Cup, and we can't even get a guy in the MVP conversation. It's interesting, but I don't know. The only argument that I really have against it, and I don't necessarily agree with it, it's just the only thing I can see is that they say Blackhawks are such a good team that one guy doesn't matter.
See, I don't know. I don't agree with that because I feel with the bottom of my heart, I feel that Patrick Kane should be in the conversation. It should be Ovechkin, Crosby, Kane. Is Tavares a great player? Yes. Should he be in the finalists for the Hart Trophy over Patrick Kane? No.
Yeah, and I think Patrick Kane really is, I don't want to call him the leader of the Blackhawks, but he's the one who he produces. He produces great. And I know earlier I was saying that he hasn't been doing as much as I would like to see in the playoffs right now. But he's a guy who's going to score points all the time. He's always going to get you goals. On the best team in the NHL, it's interesting. It's interesting that he's not in the conversation.
Well, the one Hawk that's in a conversation for an award is Brandon Saad, one of the finalists for the Calder Memorial Trophy, which is the trophy awarded to basically the Rookie of the Year for hockey in the regular season. The 3 candidates are Brendan Gallagher of the Montreal Canadiens, Jonathan Huberdeau of the Florida Panthers, and then Brandon Saad of the Chicago Blackhawks. What's your percentage? Does Saad take home the hardware for the Calder Trophy?
I think, how do you not? Being this rookie that he's obviously produced, but he's on such a great team that it's so easy for him to produce.
Who is he produced with? That's my question. And the answer, Jonathan Toews and Marian Hossa. Think about this. As a rookie, day one, who cares if it's a lockout season? Coach comes to you. Coach Q with his mustache goes, hey, kid, you're on the first line with Marian Hossa and Jonathan Toews. Who doesn't crap their pants a little bit?
Yeah, exactly. He responded that with, Coach, can I get another pair of pants real quick? But yeah, he can't not produce. It was the perfect situation to really make him a great player and to get him to learn from some great players who've already been there, done that. Now you can do it. Your rookie year, you can go and win a Stanley Cup and go win the basically Rookie of the Year award. I can't see any reason why he shouldn't win it.
Well, and his stats for the entire season are he had 10 goals, 17 assists, adding up to 27 points. And how did that factor in for the Hawks? In points, he was tied for 4th, tied with Duncan Keith. Then with assists, he was actually more of the middle of the pack a little bit, but still in that 4th spot. So, I mean, if you're in the top 4 in points, assists, and then goals, he's at 4 too. So a solid 4 across the board on the Blackhawks. How are you not Rookie of the Year?
Exactly. You're on such a great team. A team that, like I said before, favorite to go to the Stanley Cup, most likely a favorite to win the Stanley Cup. And you are, you're number 4. You're right in there with everybody. No way that he doesn't win this.
Well, and I mean, the only thing looking at Gallagher and Huberdeau's stats is Gallagher of the Canadiens has 28 points, 13 assists, 15 goals. So, I mean, more goals, 1 more point, but pretty much the same game as Saad. When you look at Huberdeau, though, 31 points, 14 goals, 17 assists. So, I mean, same assists, but more goals.
But where are your teams right now? That's one thing I got to say. Where are your teams right now? Brandon Saad, he's getting his team.
Yeah.
He's getting his team. And it's not all him, obviously.
No, it's not all him.
But he's doing his job, and he's doing it damn well.
But, I mean, if you look at the teams, Florida didn't even make the playoffs. Montreal got knocked out by the 7th seed, and the Blackhawks beat the 8th seed in 5 games.
Exactly. And you're part of this team that is history now.
Like you said, longest point streak. It's kind of hard not to. I think for me, it'd be hard for him not to win the Calder Memorial Trophy after being a part. And not just like I was on the team. Being on the first line of a team that set the point streak.
Yeah, exactly. Every night you're going out there and you're playing right away.
But kind of to move on to a different story in hockey that I wanted to bring up was the Ottawa Senators knocked off the Montreal Canadiens in their series. So Ottawa being the first East team to move out. In there, I want to say it was Game 3. They had, with both teams combined, 236 penalty minutes, and 9 players were given game misconducts.
Incredible. Well, you see that stat and you think, did the NHL and the NBA switch refs or something? Because this is a basketball game for all those penalties, the sport that's known for being soft, where if you touch somebody, that's a technical,
Basketball ain't what it used to be in the 90s.
We're not playing big boy basketball anymore. And apparently they were really going at it. They really wanted to play some big boy hockey out there. And hockey's known for being the big boy sport. I don't know. It's amazing to see.
But is this a thing where you see over 200 penalty minutes by 2 teams, 9 players basically kicked out of the game for game misconducts? Do you think this is a little over the line for hockey? Is it bad for hockey?
I can see both sides here. I can see the people saying, I don't like it. I don't like that they're dirtying our good sport. We want to keep a good name for ourselves.
But isn't hockey supposed to be the tough sport?
That's exactly it. I mean, hockey's the sport that your mom doesn't want to let you play. Hockey's the sport that you don't tell anybody that you're playing.
I think the funny thing is I know more parents that would let their kids play hockey over football.
Which, to me, makes no sense at all. I mean, hockey, such a vicious sport, so brutal, and you're just getting destroyed out there. But, hey, I mean, I guess if you're going to play it, go ahead. But anyways, I think that having this vicious of a game definitely attracts some viewers. People go, hey, check this out. Or you'll see on Twitter or something that, it's on a trending topic and everyone's freaking out like, oh my God, here's another fight, here's another penalty, here's another big hit. I like it personally. I like seeing the big hits because it is a contrast to to basketball, which is all very, very soft sport, and to Goodell's NFL, where now you can't touch the receiver, you can't lean in with your head at all ever, things like that. Hockey's a sport that says we are a tough sport, we are vicious. That's the game.
Well, and I mean this series too had it set off from the beginning where I want to say in Game 1 or Game 2, there was a big injury to one of the Canadian players, set the bad blood from the start. And I think one of the things why this series was so bad blood was because it was 2 Canadian teams. if this was two American teams, there wouldn't be 9 game misconducts. There wouldn't be over 200 minutes because, I mean, you can say all you want about hockey. The Canadian teams, when they play each other, it's a different breed of hockey.
And I like seeing this because it reminds me of that, you just go out onto the pond that happened to freeze last night. You put on some skates and you play. And if you hit somebody, you hit somebody. If you get into a fight, you get into a fight. Those are the things that are great. Like back when you're playing football at the park, if you hit somebody hard and you hurt them, big deal. There's no fine. There's no penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what professional sports should have. So I see that, and it makes me almost nostalgic to, back when I was playing these games with my friends and stuff. And I like seeing that, and I would assume other people like seeing that as well.
So do you think that maybe sports like football, basketball should kind of take this into their consideration? I don't want to say soften up the game, but I think that's the proper term for it. Don't soften up the game.
Yeah, it really is. It's just every year you see new rules and new ways to call things that are everyone just thinks are ruining the game, and maybe they're not ruining the game, and really penalties don't do that much. But I have trouble, seeing like game 2 of the Bulls Heat series. I have trouble watching that when play after play is a penalty. Here's a technical, go to the foul line time after time, and players just getting kicked out. I want to see these incredible athletes go at each other. And it's the playoffs. It's supposed to have bad blood. These teams, both Canadian teams, are supposed to hate each other. So let them hate each other. Let them fight it out.
Well, and I kind of brought up this topic for a reason, kind of the segue into our very last Blackhawk topic of the show. And that is, in the next round for the Blackhawks, we could be seeing some bad blood throughout the entire series, because if the Anaheim Ducks are able to knock off the Wings and win one more game, that would mean that the Blackhawks are playing the San Jose Sharks. And if you have not followed Shark hockey this year, one of the players on this San Jose team is not liked in the city of Chicago, and his name is Rafi Torres. Why is he not liked? Because last year, as a member of the Phoenix Coyotes, he knocked Hossa out of the game.
And now he has his opportunity to get knocked out of a game. I mean, this is what it is. This is big boy hockey here. Here's going to see your. This is something to watch. You're going to see this great moment of competitiveness. There is strategy behind it. You don't mess with our guys now, because now we're going to come and mess with you.
See, I wouldn't be surprised. And I saw this back last year when it happened. Right after he knocked Hossa out, one of the first guys to come to his teammates' back, Jamal Myers, he came out, started a fight with Torres, and just, did he win? Maybe, maybe not, but he kicked the living out of Torres. And I wouldn't be surprised that if we played, we'll preview the Sharks first, because really right now in the Stanley Cup Playoffs, the Hawks have 2 opponents they could be playing. If we play Torres and the Sharks, I wouldn't be surprised game 1 if there's a Hawks player that maybe it may not be a fight, but just early on, just bam, big hit against the boards to be like, yeah, we still remember.
Exactly. It's we remember what you did, and we're not going to let you do it again, and we're going to remind you of it every game, every time you get the puck. So think twice.
And I'm looking at this Hawks roster, and there's so many names that I could see doing this. I could see Myers doing it. I could see Roosevelt doing it. Above all, I could see Danny Carcillo doing it. I could see Carcillo being the one to... Carcillo, though, it wouldn't be a hit. Carcillo would start a fight with Torres.
This is like, you'll just expect to see, opening 5 minutes, something happens where someone just goes, all right, I'm doing it. I don't care. It's going to be on the mind of every single player of the one thing he does. He just does one thing that I don't like, and I'm going to start a fight. And I love to see it. I love to see that.
See, I don't know. I kind of wanna see us play the Sharks because I want the storyline, because I was talking to my girlfriend this week because she's a huge Hawks fan. She hates Rafi Torres because, one, she's a huge Marian Hossa fan, and two, she hates Torres for what he did to Hossa. And it's like she was getting mad at me because I'm like, you know what? I want to face Torres because I want that storyline. As what we do here on the podcast, I want to be able to talk about that week in and week out.
And that's kind of a thing that really, it goes back a little bit what we were talking about before. You know, you want that in sports. You know, you want to have the two big guys going against each other. You know, it's like the marquee matchup, and you can have that. But only, I guess the difference is it's the entire Blackhawks versus one man, because every single one of them are going to hate him. And that's what you get with these big boy sports here. You get those marquee matchups. I
don't know if it'd be one man, because you got to think too. One of the things that I remember from early in the season was Jonathan Toews actually dropping the gloves to fight Thornton of the San Jose Sharks. And I remember walking into Champs. It was after one of our podcasts. He drops the gloves, and I'm like, wait, whoa. Jonathan Toews dropped the gloves to fight somebody?
And you got this team attitude. Obviously, you know, everybody is going to support everybody else. And everyone's going to have that attitude of, you don't do that to my guy. So Toews, you're never going to see Toews fight anybody. You know, that's just something that's not going to happen. It could happen more often, and I wouldn't mind seeing it happen more often. You know, get a little angry, start beating on some people. But I don't know. I'm excited to see that. I would love to see some retribution for Torres.
Well, and one of the other things that, it would take a huge back seat to the Hawks versus Torres. But if we play the Sharks in the next round, we're going up against the guy who you could say won us a cup in Antti Niemi.
And that's a tough matchup. It's kind of an emotional matchup. You know, you just kind of, it's going to be tough for a whole series for guys like, you know, Hossa, Kane, Sharp, Toews to really go against him and really go at him because they remember him with a teammate. I would love to see it.
And I kind of feel like if we play the Sharks in the second round, we could see a little bit of a similarity that we saw in Game 1 of the Bulls Heat, where not exactly where the Hawks aren't coming off at Game 7 before they have to play a team that swept their opponent, but the Sharks swept the Canucks. The Hawks had to go a little bit longer, and part of me wonders if the Sharks are going to come out a little rusty because they've had to wait so long. The only difference is the Hawks have to wait almost as long as they do.
Yeah, this is a toss-up for me because I really think about both possible matchups, and both of them are so great. I would love to see us go against Niemi and have to go through the guy who won us that last Stanley Cup on our way to the next Stanley Cup. But at the same time, how do you not go against your rivals the season before they leave, and that rivalry kind of has to die out a little bit?
The season, and Mark is referring to the Detroit Red Wings, the season, not only the season before we kind of say bye-bye, farewell, see you in the Stanley Cup someday, it's also the season where we completely swept them in the regular season.
Yeah, and it would... adding insult to injury for them. We swept you in the regular season, and now we're going to beat you in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, look at these games. The first time we met them, January 27th, this was the Red Wings. 2-1 win in overtime, Crawford in net. Then we meet them March 3rd. 2-1 shootout win, Crawford in net. Then 7-1 win on March 31st, Crawford in net. And then a 3-2 shootout victory on April 12th, Crawford in net. So 3 out of those 4 games, extra time.
It's fun to watch, as always. The Red Wings and the Blackhawks are one of the best rivalries. Really, it is.
As a Chicago fan, which rivalry would you rate more or higher on your list? Bears, Packers, Hawks, Red Wings.
So those are tough because both are such great rivalries, so historic. I think I have to go with the Chicago Bears and the Packers over the Blackhawks and Red Wings, but it's so close.
And it
really is.
And I want you, the listener, join in the conversation. Go to the Onside Kick Facebook page, facebook.com/the Onside Kick. Go on and answer right now. What do you think is the better rivalry? Or I'm not going to say better. I'm going to say how should I word it, Mark? How should we word the question?
Kind of like what is the number one Chicago rivalry, I guess?
Which is the number one Chicago rivalry? Hawks Wings, Bears Packers. Go on the Facebook right now to answer that question. But I mean, with me in this series, if we play the Wings, I don't know. I'm kind of torn between who I want to play in the next round because I want to see that Rafi Torres versus the Chicago Blackhawks to kind of come to the aid of Marian Hossa. But at the same time, if we played the Wings 3 out of 4 times in extra time, that series is going to be hard fought. Do I think the Hawks can move on if we play the Wings? Hell yeah, I think we can. But it's still going to be hard fought.
Yeah, you have the difference between a very physical, we want revenge kind of matchup versus just that rivalry, we hate everything about you matchup. It's a tough one. I don't really know. I really don't know which one I'd rather see. I think I have to lean towards the rivalry just because I hate the Red Wings.
I don't know. I'd kind of lean towards the Sharks because I'm a man of storylines. Like I said, we do the podcast every week, and I'm a man of storylines, and I really want to talk about the Hawks versus Torres. That is one of the things I just want to talk about in the future.
But that storyline of, hey, this is the end of this rivalry. You know, we're going to have to say goodbye. And as a parting gift, we're knocking your ass out of the playoffs.
Yeah, that could happen. And Mark, now to kind of move away from hockey and move into the world of football and the NFL, we've talked about the Bears. We've gone over their draft. We've gone over the rookies that they are inviting to the rookie minicamp. But one of the things coming out of the NFC North this week is not with the Bears. It's with someone who finished in the cellar of the division last year, the Detroit Lions. And who's doing the talking? Defensive tackle Nick Fairley, where he said, and I quote, "I expect big things. I am going to say we are going to the Super Bowl because I am competitive, and that is what I want for the team. And it is one of the goals. I am sure we are going to take it game by game and day by day." End quote. Is this serious? Are the Lions really a Super Bowl contender in 2013?
It's one of those strange situations where the Lions have so much talent you see it on paper and you think, yeah, why not? But really, it just doesn't work out for them, and they're not a team you can really have that much confidence in. I think it's funny for 2 reasons. One, because you know who else declared that his team would go to the Super Bowl is Geno Smith. He also said that. So we got 2 teams going to the Super Bowl.
It's funny how
year.
Those 2 teams play week 1 of preseason.
Exactly. And now we know what our Super Bowl matchup's going to be this year. We don't even need the rest of the season. But it's also funny because Fairley himself kind of defeats his argument in the process where he says, I'm saying this because I'm competitive, not because I believe it, is basically what he's saying. And you have that, like when Joe Flacco said he's the best quarterback, when Eli Manning said he's the elite quarterback, and you have some commentators say, yeah, he's competitive. We want to hear him say that. But we don't want to hear someone say, because I'm competitive, I'm saying my team's the best. It's just stupid.
I don't know. I kind of feel like, first off with the Lions, Matthew Stafford, is he one of the top It feels like to me, to be a Super Bowl contender, you have to have a top quarterback. The Giants had Eli Manning. The Patriots had Tom Brady. You could say the Steelers. Yes, they had defense, but they had Big Ben. Look at the Ravens. Did they win this year because of their aging defense or because of Joe Flacco?
And Joe Flacco surprised a lot of people doing that And who knows? Matthew Stafford, just a couple years ago, surprised everybody by being, healthy and playing. Because that's the big thing. Nobody ever thought he would be healthy enough to play a full season. And now he's done it, and he's done it twice.
Yeah, but I mean, now it gets to the point where it's like, okay, good, you can play healthy, but can you win healthy? And I feel like with this team, I mean, wide receiver-wise, it's Megatron out there. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just CJ. And then, I mean, one of the questions that I see here on ESPN is they were talking about Ndamukong Suh and Tony Romo, and if they're both overrated. And I know Romo has nothing to do with the Lions, but I mean, you could look at Ndamukong Suh and ask, is he overrated?
He's just that big freak athlete that's going to sit on your quarterback, basically, is what it comes down to.
And he's going to kick your quarterback when he's on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna make sure that you're hurting after it. I just think he's kind of
a dirty player.
Yeah, he is a dirty player, and I don't know. I don't necessarily think he's overrated. I just think he's more harmful to an organization than he is a benefit to them, because you're going to get those penalties. He's probably going to get ejected out of a game at some point, suspended. It's not worth it.
See, I think the Lions, and you mentioned it earlier, you look at them on paper and you see chances where they could be successful. I feel like it starts with me right at the coach, where, I mean, you look at the Harbaughs, who were in the Super Bowl last year. You look at the Hoodie. You look at even Tom Coughlin with the Giants. Even look at other coaches that have won Super Bowls. There's a reason why Rex Ryan has not been to the Super Bowl and probably will never be in the Super Bowl. And with Detroit, it comes in the form of Jimmy Schwartz. I do not think if Detroit wants to be successful and be a Super Bowl team, they have to find a coach that can bring them there. They need to find someone, and it is not may the Schwartz be with you.
Yeah, not a fan of Jimmy Schwartz. He has no control over that team, and he's letting that team essentially become known to the entire league as a team of thugs.
The little Giants?
Jimmy Schwartz, I don't even know what to say to you, Ricky. Jimmy Schwartz he needs to do something to control that team, or he's going to be out of there. I really think that's what it comes down to. And then that next coach is going to have to clean house.
I see Jimmy Schwartz as a kid with the keys to the Porsche. Well, wait, no, the Lions aren't really a Porsche. I would say a kid with the keys to a decent Cadillac.
Yeah. I mean, it's all that talent, not good management, and really just no sense of identity other than we're going to hurt somebody today. That's what it comes down to. That's their team identity.
This is going to sound biased on my point being a Vikings fan, but if there's one team in the NFC North that I feel made the improvements in the offseason to say a statement like Fairley did, it's the Vikings. Because, I mean, we've talked on the podcast before. Yes, is Greg Jennings old? Yes. But he's Greg freaking Jennings. You're telling me that he couldn't step into any NFL team and be an immediate impact? Then they go and draft. They don't just draft one rookie in the first round. They draft 3 quality rookies, a wideout, a corner, a defensive tackle. To me, I feel like this NFC North is going to come down between the Bears and the Vikings. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again.
And I have no problem with that because I want the Bears in the competition there. The Vikings had a great draft. They actually were one of my favorite drafts. But, I mean, I don't know. Getting back to the Lions, this team just needs to kind of be restarted, but not completely restarted. They have some locker room cancers to get rid of, I guess.
Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah, Suh is up there, and that whole D-line really just has that attitude problem. Fairley's not helping himself with this little, we're going to go to the Super Bowl. You don't want to put those type of expectations on your team.
I feel like, and you brought it up, I think he's trying to pull the Joe Flacco a little bit. Except for Joe Flacco, it was, I am an elite quarterback.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why you do this. You don't just put these lofty expectations. You don't say you're the dream team. You don't say you're going to the Super Bowl. You don't do these things. Apparently, if you're a quarterback, it's acceptable. Mm-hmm. But in all other situations, you don't do this because you don't. When you're someone like Nick Fairley, how much of an impact is Nick Fairley making? Not that much.
No.
He's going to sack the quarterback a few times. He's going to stop some runs.
See, I don't know. I feel like the Lions, this is going to be, 2013 is going to be nothing different than last year. Will they win more than 4 games? Maybe. I'll give them 6 at the most. They'll be a 6-10 team at best because, I'm just looking at their schedule. Not only do they have to play the Vikings, Bears, and Packers twice a year, that's 6 of your games. You have to play the Steelers. Tampa Bay now got a huge cornerback in the form of Revis Island. You got to play Baltimore. You got to play the New York Giants. And, you got to play Cincinnati could easily beat Detroit. We talked about Cincinnati being a kind of a toss-up game with the Bears, but the Bears are a good team. Detroit is not.
Yeah, there's maybe 5 games on here that they should be able to win.
Arizona, Washington because it's week 3, but yet again, Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
He could come out and perform well. So I'd say Arizona, Cleveland, I'll give them a win over Dallas and Philly. That's 4.
Yeah, basically my 5th one that I want to add in essentially just comes down to they're bound to win 1 game against someone in the NFC North. No matter who it is, they're bound to win at least 1. And probably only 1, actually. Because just by pure numbers.
Who's going to be that victim?
I would say the Packers.
You think so?
Packers have trouble when they go to play at the Ford.
See, I don't know. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it like a year or 2 ago, the Bears were in the same kind of situation with the Lions that the Vikings are in now, where right there, Lions open and end the season with the Vikings. Didn't the Bears have that like a year or 2 ago?
It would have been 2 seasons ago that we had that opener. I don't remember what the... No, it wouldn't have been that one because we closed off against the Packers in that one. But yeah, it's probably happened at some point. I just can't remember it right now. But that's not... I don't think that's a good place for the Lions to be in, going against the Vikings at the very end of your season if they're competing for a playoff spot, possibly.
The only win I could see, and you're probably going to disagree with me, the Packers could be a team, but that Week 10 meeting at Chicago, because one of the biggest questions, and I'm going to throw it out there, I'm going to play devil's advocate, is Jay healthy for that Week 10 game against the Bears and the Packers at Soldier Field?
And the Lions do have the bye right before it. It'll be interesting, but really, Peanut Tillman is going to shut down Megatron as he always does. Mm-hmm. He always compares very well against him. And then what else do they have? That's always what these matchups come down to. The Lions just don't have anything else to do. They can't go anywhere else with the ball. So you can get right past them easily.
And Mark, now to move into the final topic of this week's podcast, the NBA playoffs, and more importantly, for us here in Chicago, the Chicago Bulls. They lose by 10 tonight to the Miami Heat at home, 104-94. But kind of relate something that we talked about earlier in the podcast. This series has a lot of bad blood in it already. Noah ejected, given the finger. Taj ejected, fined. And then tonight, in Game 3, Nazi Muhammad pushes LeBron, gets ejected.
And he is somebody who in the past game, after there were those ejections, he was not a happy man. And he was going to make sure that he knew that he wasn't happy because, really, who cares at that point? We were blown out anyways. So to come back and push LeBron James as he did, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, maybe we could have used you later on in the game instead of just kind of having 6 players really left to play. But I don't know. I like it. It's interesting to me to see this, except for the fact that we got somebody like Joey Crawford here as our referee, just kind of calling every single thing. He's not letting the guys play. You got to let them play.
See, I don't know. I feel like looking, and you could see this just by looking at the box scores from Game 3. You see all of the Bulls starters. We had only 8 players. 8 players played in this game. That's how we're usually saying how deep the Bulls are. We weren't deep in this game. And then Nazi gets tossed. That means our bench goes from Nazi, Teague, and Gibson to Gibson and Teague. You have Bellinelli, Robinson, Noah, Butler, all playing 40-plus minutes in this game, all getting double digits. Our leading scorer was Carlos Boozer with 21. Leading rebounder was Noah with 11. But I feel like on the Heat side, the reason why we lost, yes, LeBron, 25 points, he's going to do that for you. But to let Bosch go 20 points, 19 rebounds, 14 of them on the defensive end, you can't let that happen.
Yeah, I don't know. The rebounding thing just was bad. I mean, you can see it right there. The Heat pretty much was always going to get a second chance. They really were.
And I mean, they only out-rebounded us as a team by 2, but I mean, you can't let one guy get 19 to 20 rebounds.
You're just letting somebody walk all over you as a team. You have to stop that because otherwise they're not getting those kind of second chances, which is really what's going to put them ahead. And yeah, the end score wasn't that close.
We let one get away.
But it was close. Yeah, exactly. It was close towards the end.
The Bulls should have won this game 3. I mean, you go down by 2 into halftime, tied after 1, tied after 3, and you lose by 10. You get outscored by 10 in the fourth quarter. It's like, are you kidding me? And I mean, it's hard for me to watch this Bulls Heat series because look at the stat line of D. Wade. D. Wade, besides his 10 points, he was nowhere to be found in this game. Yeah, he played 36 minutes, went 5 for 7, but only had, 4 rebounds. Yeah, he assisted a little bit, had the most turnovers on the team. It's like D. Wade got bailed out by the bench, and that bench came in the form of Norris Cole. 18 points, 24 minutes, 6 of 7 from the field, a perfect 3 from 3 from beyond the arc.
Yeah, I think the Bulls really had to take this one. They kind of had to get that back because the Heat, they've got great momentum right now, and they're hoping to go back into Miami and close this thing out. So they want to win Game 4. So that way, Game 5, that's it. We're done. And this was, I think, the one that the Bulls really had to come back and say, we're not going to let you push us around. Mm-hmm. And that is something that happens. That really is. But they're just not able to compete because they just don't have the players.
I kind of hate this Bulls team right now. And the reason why is because at the end of the season, you gave me nothing to root for. And by I mean nothing to root for, I couldn't wait for next season so bad. I couldn't wait for it bad enough. Then against Brooklyn, you just don't go down. You go up, and then you win in 7. Then you demolish the Heat in Game 1. You give me hope, and then you got nothing. Like, right now, I just want, just go ahead and die. Just go ahead and die off. Wait till next season because, I mean, I feel like Game 1 was our game. We had to win this one. You're right. The Heat are going to move on. We're going to look to next season, and then the Derrick Rose talk can stop.
And the Derrick Rose talk needs to stop. There was a big thing about will he come back in this game, and people just need to stop with that. I mean, I don't even really think we should go into this conversation that much because it just needs to end. Derrick Rose is not coming back. He's done for the season. That's what it is. This is the team that we have. Unfortunately, we can compete. We just can't, we can make it difficult. We just can't be on the same level that the Miami Heat is because they're playing with all their starters. They're playing with their stacked team. We're playing with what we have left.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like, yet again, it's like what I said just a few minutes ago. We were playing with There were a lot of people that had DNPs in this game for us. Only 3 bench players played. One of them got ejected from the game early for pushing LeBron. And you know what? I like that. I like that Nazi got up after that and said, you know what? I'm not going to take this from you. Who cares that you're the MVP? I ain't going to take from you.
Yeah, it's fun to see. And it's so nice as a Chicago fan. At least, you know, we might lose this series, but at least we put LeBron James on his ass.
And I will say, I mean, can I stand him? No. But after this playoffs, I would not mind if the Bulls went ahead, looked at Nate Robinson and said, here's a 1-year contract. Take it or leave it. And he'll take it. I would honestly like to see Nate back next season.
I think if you do that, though, you have to take out Captain Kirk. You can only keep one of them. You can't keep them both. That's my thought. I mean, unless you
What about getting rid of Bellinelli?
I don't know. I like Bellinelli, though. I mean, he's not an all-around great player, but I think when you compare him to the Captain Kirk here, Captain Kirk's got some good defense.
That's why I say Bellinelli over Kirk, because I like his defense compared to, I mean, Nate's a point guard, but he can play shooting guard. And, I mean, Kurt's a point guard, can play shooting guard. Bellinelli's a shooting guard. And, I mean, what about even, and I'm looking at the contract right now to see if this is plausible, what about Daquan Cook? We picked him off of waivers from Miami. Do we really need him next season?
No, we're barely using him now, so what's the point? You know, he's one of those guys that, you know,
because you also got to think a draft. We're going to bring a rookie in. We might bring 1 or 2 rookies in.
My criticism that I always have with our coach, Thibodeau, is that he kind of gets stubborn and he is very stuck in his ways. I mean, this is kind of a game where you see, I mean, we could have used some help. You know, Rip Hamilton, why can't we use him? Why couldn't he have helped out? You know, I know he's been hurt a lot, but it was coach's decision that he didn't play today. Mm-hmm. He could have came in. He could have helped out. We just needed something because we are a team that's tired. I mean, you look at Butler had 48 minutes. Joakim had 42. Robinson had 42. Bellinelli had 43. That's a lot of minutes for these guys. The only guy starting out who didn't have, you know, in the 40s was Boozer, who only had 29. And he's splitting time basically with Taj Gibson, who had 22 minutes. I don't like that. I mean, Butler's been playing pretty much every minute of every game in this playoffs. That's just what he's been doing, and he's been doing a great job. He's young. He can handle that. Our whole team can't handle that.
See, because the free agents, and this is getting into a different conversation. I think we're getting into this conversation because we're basically saying that after this loss, season's over. I don't even care if we beat the Heat in the next game. I feel like the Heat are going to move on. Our free agents, Daquan Cook, Bellinelli, Nazi, Vladimir Radmanovic, and Nate Robinson. Those are your free agents.
It really, to me, I don't know, there's that big question of Nate Robinson and the Captain Kirk. I don't know. I don't think you can keep them both. I really don't. And I think we're more... After this performance, don't we have to keep Nate Robinson? You know, he basically is the reason we got past Brooklyn. You have to keep him. And I don't necessarily like the idea that we have to keep him because he does take such ugly shots. It just happens that a lot of them are falling right now. And that once he gets that momentum, he doesn't let it go.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm looking at him, and the first thing I think of is, okay, we have 5 players that are going to be free agents. Let's split them in. You got Nate, Bellinelli, and Cook are guards. Nazi's a center. And then you've got Vlad as a small forward. Nate Robinson I'd keep. Nazi I'd keep. Right there. There's 2. Cook, gone. I would actually get rid of Vlad. So I would keep Robinson, Nazi, and Bellinelli. But that's also depending on what's in the free agent market. Because, I mean, Right now, I mean, would you rather keep Nate Robinson or get something better if it's available in the free agent pool?
Without a doubt, I would rather get something other than Nate Robinson. I really would. I don't think he's not going to play the whole season like he's playing right now. So go get anything else, please.
See, and right now I'm trying to look at the first round in the many, many, many first round mock drafts that there are. The player that is projected to go to us is a small forward, power forward, 6'9" guy out of Greece. So it looks like they're expecting us to take one of the foreign players. But off the top of your head, is there any rookie coming into this season that you would love the Bulls to go ahead and grab if they can get a chance to get him?
I don't really know. I mean, honestly, I think the big thing is just I would not go and grab rights to a foreign player. I want somebody that's going to come in now and make a big difference, which, I mean, I guess that's harder to do because we're further back.
See, but I mean, I'm looking at this, and out of the mock drafts, I wouldn't be the players that are after us. I wouldn't have a problem with taking Tim Hardaway Jr., shooting guard out of Michigan. I wouldn't have a problem taking Lorenzo Brown out of North Carolina State. Hell, if he's even around that far, I wouldn't mind taking Jeff Whitty and then trading Carlos Boozer.
See, I think that's always something that comes up. Can we get rid of Carlos Boozer? And it also has been proven that it's something that the Bulls are not willing to do.
Do we need him?
No, we don't. Especially once Derrick Rose comes back. We don't need Boozer at all.
Like, I feel like our big men, Taj is good, Joakim is good, Nazi's a good kind of bench player. If you pick up Jeff Whitty, you can try to trade Boozer for a secondary guard or a secondary two guards, like two of them, not just a two guard, a multiple guards.
And I think that the playoff performance that Boozer had has been better than in years past. So people will not...
But that's because Rose is out.
It is, but that's beneficial to us because, you know, Rose isn't going to play on your team when we trade him to you. So you can have him and you can see what he can do without, you know, Derrick Rose there. So I would love to get Boozer off this team. We say it all the time. We would love to get Boozer off this team. But I want a shooting guard. That's what I want in the draft. Because that's what we need. That's what we missed out on.
And I'm telling you, the shooting guard I would take with where we would be in the first round, I would go ahead and take Tim Hardaway Jr. Because I feel like out of that Michigan team, the guy who is going to be carrying the most pressure out of that team is Trey Burke. Because he was the quote-unquote leader of the Wolverines. Tim Hardaway Jr. knows how to ball, and he has the dad that showed him what to do. Tim Hardaway Jr. was a great three-point shooter. Or Tim Hardaway was a great three-point shooter. Tim Hardaway Jr. can be the same thing.
Which I'm fine with if we can get some, because we don't need Derrick Rose. You know, we don't need this guy to get around, create his own shot, and also create shots and opportunities for other people. We need somebody who can work with Derrick, you know, can go and get the pass and then make his own shot, which is what we need. We don't have shooters. We need shooters.
And kind of looking at the last thing I want to round out with is the entire playoff picture in the East. The Knicks and the Pacers. And the one thing that shocked me about this game, too, the Knicks go on a 30-2 run to close out this game. 30-2 run.
It's ridiculous. You can't let something like that happen. I mean, what
is that a death sentence to the Pacers? Are they done for the rest of the series? Can they come back from a 30-2 run to lose game 2 and avoid? They would have went up 2-0 on New York.
Yeah, it's a huge killer for that team. Huge morale killer. I mean, I guess the Bulls, you know, they got completely destroyed in game 2 and put up one hell of a fight in game 3.
Mm-hmm.
Pacers, I see no reason why they can't do the same thing. Just use it to motivate that fire.
See, I don't know. I feel like the New York Knicks have now taken this and they are saying, hey, you know what? We're the team to beat. Not you, not Miami. We're the team. And does Carmelo play ISO too much? Maybe. Does he not pass enough? maybe. But I feel like this New York team showed, especially with Melo and J.R. Smith, 6th man of the year, they're going to come back, and they are going to win this series. Moving over to the West, I want to talk Thunder's Grizzlies. To me, I'm actually shocked that the Grizzlies got a game out of this.
Yeah, the Thunder is a great team. Even without Westbrook, they're a great team. I don't know. I guess I'm not really surprised that Memphis did win a game. They might even win another one.
I mean, yeah, Westbrook's out, but it's the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, they kind of have to I don't know. They just have to get used to it. It's a different team when it's just Durant. You know, I mean, basically, he's your man. He's your only guy. So it's a little easier for Memphis to get some games out of it. But, I mean, one more at most.
And then last but not least, the Spurs, they avoid going down 2-0 after in Game 1, coming back from behind, Manu Ginobili hitting a wide-open shot from beyond the arc. Series tied 1-1, Game 3 going on right now. The Warriors actually got a win against the Spurs. Is that going to be enough to beat them in a best-of-7 series?
I don't think so. I just like the Spurs. They're an all-around team. They play well together. They have their stars, but they're not a star team. You know, like they're not. Mm-hmm. It's not LeBron James and Dwayne Wade out there.
All I can hear in the back of my head right now is if Dave was not sick and was not missing this podcast, he would be at the ready to fight you that the Warriors are a better team in the series because of Seth Curry, and maybe he'd throw Andrew Bogut in there. I don't know. I agree with you, Mark. I don't agree with Dave. I think that the Spurs are the better team. They have experience, and maybe me as a fan, I just want to see Thunder Spurs. I want to see Thunder Spurs, and if I can't see my Bulls move on, I want to see Heat Knicks.
Yeah, I would love to see the rematch between the Spurs and the Thunder, especially because this time I think without Westbrook, it's going to go the other way. And even actually with Westbrook, I think the Spurs are a better team than they were last year. So it would be fun to see that matchup again, especially if the Spurs get to go on.
Well, that's going to do it here for the Onside Kick. Don't forget to leave a comment down below if you agreed with us, disagree with us. We always like interacting with you, the fan, talking about what we love to talk about, and that's sports. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/The Onside Kick. Good night, everybody.